everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't wanna fall, but I don't have to grow. I'm not the one with two star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of. The life inside this man, I've been born again.
Yeah.
Yes, here we are again. We're born again.
Mm-hmm.
Our good friend Michael Tate, lead singer of the Newsboys.
Yeah.
The second lead singer.
Mm-hmm.
The original had a little bit of problem, but I think he got it straightened out.
Good. Hey, we're all human beings.
Amen. Right? Amen. So, I prayed for him. And I'll be honest, I actually liked the original Newsboy. I can't think of his name right now. He's an Aussie. He's from Australia. It was an Australian band.
Great smile.
Yeah.
Bald head.
Yeah,
that guy. Yeah.
And in fact, they did, I think 2 or 3 years ago, they did a combined, I still call them albums.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't. They think you're old-fashioned if you call them albums. But it's a CD.
Yeah.
Or a CD-DVD.
Was it a double disc?
No.
See, that's the vinyl days, right?
Yeah. Well, it could be a double.
Yeah,
CD.
But man,
That's true. Yeah. Man, remember that? The double albums? You open them up. You got an album on this side and an LP on this side, an LP on this side, and then you have all the credits and everything here. And I mean, it had more information than you could shake a stick at, and photos, and they were beautiful. I still have a bunch of those, by the way.
Yeah, and back in the 70s, they did live concerts to album. Mm-hmm. And they had a character of their own. Because you could hear the crowd. You felt like you were there up on about the 8th row of the arena. And I was at the DeGarmo and Keys recording of their live album.
I was going to mention that. That's one of my very favorite Christian albums.
Yes.
DeGarmo and Key Live.
I called my buddies back.
You were there?
Yes.
Was that?
That was at Mabee Center. At the
that.
Johnson Theater. Okay. And I called my buddies back home. They were actually that same night at a Larry Norman concert. And so they were after the show at one of my buddy's apartments. And I called in and I said, "So how was it?" I said, "Man, if it's a single disc, it's going to suck. But if they did it as a double album, it's going to be awesome." And it was a double.
Yeah. Oh no, that was just that I still have that. Mm-hmm. That's a great album.
Yeah.
DeGarmo and Key Live. To me it's their best.
Yeah, and they actually had a practice run because about 7 months earlier, they were the backup band for Amy Grant's live album at the Mabee Center. Well, she did in 2 parts. She released 2 albums. She did one night was here in Tulsa at the Mabee Center. Next night was in Oklahoma City or Norman. And so she actually, got double the money out of it. But it essentially was a live album,
right.
And so, yeah.
It's funny. I got to hear the original track where DeGarmo and Key did the demo for Jericho.
Oh, yeah. That's an early album.
And it sucked.
Really?
It was horrible. I can't believe how they went from that to the actual recorded and live version because, I've toured with them. I toured with them. We became friends. And I had them do these concerts, several times in Europe. They went to Poland and with Farrell. I did one tour with, this is a weird combination. It was Farrell and Farrell, Twyla Paris, and DeGarmo and Key, if you can believe that.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it was one of the best concerts I did. Then later, they came back over and we did festivals in Germany.
Yeah.
And, of course, they ended up at Flavel Festival, which was one of the biggest European in Holland. You could probably go online, FLEVO Festival. It has all kinds of, almost any American group that's ever been anything has been at the Flavel Festival.
Sure.
in the Netherlands, but and they have all the videos on YouTube that you can watch. But anyway,
but there are just some songs like you take Frampton Comes Alive.
Yeah, Frampton Comes Alive.
You know, that to me is the epitome of a live rock concert album.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix live at the Fillmore, Fillmore West. That is a great one. Hendrix with Buddy Miles, and I can't remember who the bass player was at the time, but Buddy Miles on drums, Jimmy on lead guitar, and then what was Billy some on the bass. But anyway, that is to me one of the best Jimi Hendrix albums. But it was live at the Fillmore West. You know, Rare Earth.
Okay.
Rare Earth Live.
Okay.
They did that Get Ready. It was like a 14-minute version.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was done in a lake, And I'm surprised no one was electrocuted because they got wires running across the lake.
Oh, God. No, Larry Norman did the tune.
Please forgive us for reminiscing. We do this every week. I always say, today's straight news. Nothing but the news. But then we end up in one of these.
But Larry Norman did the tune. Actually just came on improv. And somebody did a bootleg recording of it. Can I have that? And then he made a decent version of it. Or Messiah. If you haven't heard that as the live cut. But my first Christian album, Give My Heart to Jesus, in early 79. And I got Andre Crouch live from Carnegie Hall. That was another live album. You know. But you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
It's if it's done right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's got to be done well and done right. Now, a lot of them, they record them live, but then they go in the studio and overdub and tune in. Yeah.
Well, you know who did that? It was Russ Taff. I was at his live album, and I think he had too much to drink. You know, he admitted he's an alcoholic. He got treatment for it, overcame it, but he screwed that whole concert up. And they still released an album, so it's probably more of a studio album. So that's an example of, I didn't lie.
One place you can really see it, but still, they're my favorite. It's interesting that today, the live worship albums and recordings, you can't call them albums anymore, recordings or whatever, because YouTube rules now. YouTube, you don't need to buy anything anymore.
We're back to the single. You know, we've got full circle.
Yeah. Now. You can do a whole concert. You know, you get a whole concert, but it's all on YouTube. And they get so many million views, but it's still 1 million views is worth like $50 or something. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten, you know.
Really?
And, it's not. But one of my favorites for a while, it was what's the church in Australia?
Hillsong.
Hillsong. Yeah. Remember, it's Hillsong, everything. Now it's Elevation Church out of Charlotte, North Carolina. But Elevation Church, to me, is so good because it's so into the audience. When their concerts, it focuses so much on the audience. So the photography, the videography, it incorporates the audience so much. So while the worship is going on, it's a lot on the stage, but they're constantly showing the people worship. And see, that's what worship is about. My big complaint about worship, whether it's my church, my own church, I'm not getting on other people's church. My church is just as bad, if not the worst. I complain all the time.
You haven't found the perfect church yet, Eddie?
Nobody seems to want to listen to me about the volume at my church and these other churches. But the whole idea of worship is to incorporate the congregation. When the volume is so high you can't hear the congregation, it's a concert.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In fact, do you remember, like, in the concert, what was the big part of every concert? And it still is if you go to, whether it's, I was going to say Britney Spears. Boy, does that date me. What is her name? Kelsey's girlfriend. Taylor Swift. I can never think of her name.
Yeah.
Anyway, Taylor Swift, or anybody, you name one. It's the part where they're singing, all of a sudden they do this.
Yeah.
They turn the volume, and then everybody knows the music, and they sing the song, right? That's a concert when they turn, and it's so funny how now it's supposed to be a big deal when during worship, all of a sudden the band stops playing and allows the congregation to join in and be heard.
A cappella.
What? No, it just
Well, you said the band stops.
The band stops, and everybody on stage stops basically, and allows the congregation to sing instead of what's on stage.
Yep.
And they allow that maybe for 30 seconds or one verse, and then boom, it's back up, and then it's the stage again. Well, I think that's reverse. You know, it should be the congregation worshiping. Because, Dave, when you and I got saved, what was the worship leader, the worship team, or the worship leader?
The church choir.
Well, okay, yeah. See, you got saved in a more traditional setting. I got saved with a long-haired guy in bell-bottom jeans and sandals.
I see where you're going.
Yeah, and a guitar. Oh, in fact, he didn't even have a guitar. This guy just stood up there and sang with no instruments, and the people just sang.
Yeah.
And everybody knew the music. No overheads.
Yeah, no. If you were hanging around Terry Talbot, he would have different people in the audience singing different parts.
Well, yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, you did that, and I mean, but it was so good. Everybody just loved it. But man, everybody was so into the singing.
Yes,
and it's funny. Today we're going to learn a new song. Okay, follow me. Here it is. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
And then by the next week, everybody knew the song. If you took the overhead away 1 month in,
forget hymnals. They don't even know what hymnals are.
Right. But I mean, but just think about it. In the church today, if you take the overhead away, nobody knows how to sing. Nobody knows the words to the songs.
Eddie, today's church is largely become a stage show.
We've dumbed it down.
It's a performance. You're going to a concert. Concert with an inspirational message.
It's one of the draws. Oh, we have the most wonderful worship team. What? You're not supposed to be going for the worship team. I remember one day I went because I was running sound at one of the satellites that I was. And one of the sound guys was there. I'll never forget this. And this guy was a young guy, and he had been at another church. He had learned his, as they call it, his chops. He'd gotten his chops at another church in town that I won't mention the name. I don't want to disparage any people. But anyway, so he's up there talking about your job is very important in lighting and sound. It's one of the most important. People may forget the message. They may forget whatever happened, but that one riff in the guitar, that one bit of lighting that happened during the service, they'll never forget that. Wait a minute, wait. They're not supposed to remember lighting or guitar riff or the keyboard run or this or that. If they don't remember the word of God, that's the whole reason they're there. I mean, they may forget the message, but they won't forget that guitar run or that bass or that lighting experience they had. You might as well go to a strip show and say, oh, that girl on the pole, I'll never forget that. Or the way they did the lighting at some psychedelic freak show or something.
It's the entertainment, Eddie.
It's the entertainment. And I'm thinking, when I sat there, and the guy who trained me and the others to run this new board at our satellite church, he was there and he was sitting over on the side, and I looked at him and he kind of just dropped his head. It was like, he couldn't believe what he was hearing either. He kind of glanced at me and just dropped his head.
Yeah.
He said, oh, my goodness, are you kidding me?
Maybe we finally jumped the shark. Maybe we reached a point where it's like, okay, this is nuts. Let's go back to home Bible studies.
Well, see, but I found this. It's the weirdest thing with sound people, the guys, sound men. No matter what, I did it touring with bands.
Yeah.
You get these sound guys that think they're God.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The sound guy, they think.
And they got terrible people skills.
Yeah. Well, or they think that it's all about them. That people are there for them, not the guys on stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to tell you, two of the best sound people that I ever met, or the whole crew, best crew I ever met, believe it or not, was Stryper and Idle Cure.
Yeah.
And praise God, the Idle Cure guy, I ended up rooming with him and traveling with him.
Well, they were on your record label.
Well, that was much later.
Okay.
When
yeah.
I met them, they were barely saved. I mean, they had 1 foot in the church and 1 foot out. But through that tour, they saw doing the missions tour and everything. It really revived them, and man, then they got it together again. And praise God, was good. And in fact, the sound guy wasn't even saved, and I got to share with him. I didn't even know he wasn't saved until about halfway in, and all of a sudden I realized, what's with him? And I said, he's not. He's just our sound guy, but he was just the nicest guy, an ex-Marine, young kid.
Yeah.
But so just being together, and he saw our lives and what was happening. All of a sudden, it was just this transformation, and he gave his heart to the Lord and became a really strong Christian. And then he got cancer and died.
Wow.
Yeah, but he was really good. And Stryper, their whole team.
Yeah.
The lighting. In fact, we did this concert in this hall, and we had all these Christian bands, and the sound was horrible. It couldn't. I mean, and we're talking, the Imperials.
Okay.
And people like this, where the sound shouldn't be that hard. It's just a quartet of guys,
four-part
singing.
harmony.
Yeah, and just the vocals in a little band. And you got Stryper, and the Stryper guys were coming in helping the sound guy with. But when Stryper got up there, it was like you're in your living room listening to the sound. It was so clear and balanced, and it was like they're just.
See, there's some buildings, some auditoriums can't be saved. I mean,
this was one of those that you would have thought it was like a big auditorium, just a gym, like 4 walls, but I'm telling you, Dave, that sound was so crisp, so clear, so whatever. I don't know how they did it, what they did, but those guys performed magic, and it was just, and everywhere they went, the sound was perfect. But that's why they hired the best. These are the people that did Madonna. They were professional sound people that did secular. They were Christians that did, but they worked for one of the biggest sound. They did Phil Collins, Genesis, Phil Collins, Madonna, Julio Iglesias. Now, is Julio? Yeah, Julio's the dad, right? Julio Iglesias.
I think so.
Yeah. But anyway, these are the type of people these were.
Yeah.
And so, but it was funny that they could do that, and then I'm dealing with guys who, do some little group and think their sound is good, and it's horrible, and you try to tell them something, and you can't talk to them because they know better. I'm the sound guy. I'm the professional.
Don't bother me.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing.
And you just want to go nuts. You want to.
Yeah. My son, you talked about Madonna. My son, his last 4 or 5 CDs he released, he sent it off. Madonna's sound engineer did all the compression work, where you normalize. And wow, what a difference. I had no idea. And I don't have a great ear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. These people, and it's not just, it's that, but they know the technology. There's so much technology people have learned and studied because that's their life.
Yeah.
Which leads me into this other thing. There's a guy, I don't know if we talked about him. Let me think of his name real quick. Oh, my goodness. Palmer Luckey. Weird name. I used to not be able to figure out, is his name Lucky Palmer?
Yeah, I know.
Palmer Luckey. It's actually backwards. It's Palmer Luckey.
It's like my preacher friend Eastman Curtis,
Yeah, right, Eastman Curtis, but Palmer Luckey.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most important names you never heard of.
Huh.
Have we not talked about Palmer Luckey?
No, haven't heard that name at all.
Palmer Luckey is the guy who developed the virtual goggles.
Oh.
That, what are they called? It's the ones
virtual reality kind of thing.
The virtual reality, yeah. What are the? Oh man, it just went through my head. Facebook has them now.
Yeah, they're metaverse stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're goggles you put on, and it just changes what you see.
The 3D, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'll tell you, it's the funniest thing. So my wife, she has vertigo real bad.
Yeah, that'll screw you up.
Yeah. And so, we had the first ones with Samsung. Mm-hmm. It used to be when you bought a new Samsung phone, they gave you a pair free.
Okay.
And you could go on.
Oh, you set your phone in there, right?
Right. You
that
set
one.
Your phone, right, that one. And it was the coolest thing. And so until the phones didn't fit anymore,
yeah.
it was good for a few years.
You had to go buy a new one.
Yeah.
the new model of Samsung.
Yeah. It was a Quest. The Quest. Anyway, So, and so my wife had vertigo, and it was like you're on a roller coaster, and you're going, and that was it. She'll start puking all over the room.
We're talking about you, Vicky.
But we had the coolest one, I put it on, and I was trying to figure out what this was. And so I'm sitting there, and you're in India, and you got these people. You're looking, what is this? Why am I looking at these guys are down there, and they're looking at you, and they're looking at me. You wonder, what in the heck are they, what am I doing here? And I look left, and all of a sudden, what is this? What the heck? And then I figure out it's a leg, and I look at it, and then I look up. I'm sitting under an elephant.
Oh, okay.
You're sitting under the elephant, and then you turn around, and sure enough, you see the whole elephant. And if you back up, you go away from. I mean, I don't know how in the heck they do this, but whatever you do, you move in relation to the elephant. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how they get it to where you move when you move, it moves.
Yeah.
If you sit there the whole time, you will be there the whole time. And then when you move to the side, you can look behind the elephant. But anyway, I'm sitting under an elephant, and an elephant's trunk, and you look up, and the elephant looks down at you. I mean, it was the craziest thing. But anyway, the guy who developed this, his name is Palmer Luckey. Mm-hmm. He started when he was 12 years old.
Ooh,
12 years old.
Prodigy.
Let this be a lesson to you parents out there with your kids. He was so driven.
Yeah.
So his parents, now everybody's not going to be able to do this, okay? His parents had an abandoned trailer, like a caravan type, out in their yard.
Mobile trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out in their yard. So he got an old, what was the Commodore 64.
Oh, yeah.
And he got a bunch of these and put them together, and he started working with those and doing more and more and more. 12-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. And he kept working on this. This was his goal in life, to get virtual reality going. And he kept working. And by the time he was 18, he actually developed this, and he somehow got these people in the different areas of cyber technology involved, and got money backing, and they finally developed this. And then he finally got Facebook on, Zuckerberg and Facebook on board. There's one big problem. You'll never guess what it is.
I'm stumped. I don't know where to go.
He's a conservative.
Oh, boy. That's a problem.
And he was a Trump supporter.
Oh, yeah.
So they basically figured out a way to screw him out of his own company.
Yeah, that happens.
So he wasn't hurt too bad. They bought him out for $2 billion. Mm-hmm. And then they basically just cut him out of the whole deal. Yep. So now when you buy the when you see the ads for the virtual, because you see them on TV, they're Facebook and the virtual reality goggles. Apple has one now too, but the original, and Facebook still has the other one. That's who it is, Palmer. There's a whole book about it. There's a whole book telling his whole story. I was going to Kansas one weekend, and I listened to it all the way up and all the way. It's the most fascinating story, but in the end, it tells about the whole political side about how his affiliation with Donald Trump. But so what happened after he got fired, though, here's a cool thing.
Yeah, this is what I want to hear.
There's a new thing called augmented reality.
Yeah.
There's virtual reality and there's augmented reality. And augmented reality, I guess, it's not fake reality, but it allows you to be in places that you're not. So what they've done, they've got these drones at the border that they've come up with where they can fly. And so a person sitting at a border station can see 10 to 20 miles worth of the border at one station and see what's going on and can deploy the Border Patrol. And so he had this new company, and they were running that under the Trump administration.
How about that?
I don't know if they kept it or fired it under Biden.
Yeah,
or
well,
not.
I'm assuming that part of that buyout, that billions of dollars he got from Zuckerberg, that was probably a non-compete clause.
Yeah, I'm sure it probably was. But just to show you can't keep a good man or a good boy or a good man down.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is he's another Elon Musk.
Yeah, no.
He's got such a mind that by the time he developed this virtual reality, he's already moved on.
Yeah, now he's probably into his 40s now. You said he started when he's
No, he's just in late 20s now.
Wait a minute.
This just happened.
You said he started with the Commodore 64.
When he was 12 years old.
Yeah, but
that's all his parents could afford.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
That's why.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
So it's just a poor kid working with what little bit his parents got from a garage sale or something.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, he's just a little genius. I mean, when you listen to the book, this was just 4 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
4 or 5 years ago when I listened to the book's not been out that long. I wish I could remember The Future of Reality or something like that. Yeah, you can look it up. Look up Palmer Luckey. It's on Amazon.
Well, yeah.
On Amazon. And I listened to it. I can't read. My eyes water too bad. But I just got it on Audible.
Yeah. Hey, have you heard about the kid in Stillwater?
There's a whole lot of kids in Stillwater. Which kid in
13 years
Stillwater?
old, made global news for something seems insignificant. He beat Tetris, the computer game that was said to be unbeatable. And he got so good, he went to the highest level. And when the highest level ends, it just crashes. It just stops. And he did a video of him doing it. And all of a sudden, he gets there, and he just starts bawling. This kid's 13, lives in Stillwater, Oklahoma. It just happened a few weeks ago. And it was just like, this prodigy. I don't know if this kid's good at anything else, but he beat Tetris. Wow. He is the first human being ever to beat without the aid of other things or hacking the software or anything. But anyway, so, hey, it's an Okie.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oklahoma proud.
Yeah. I got an announcement.
Okay.
How do I say this? Okay. My daughter and son-in-law have announced the upcoming birth of my 7th grandchild.
7th?
A son. And Eddie.
Another van.
Yes. And you know what, Eddie? A lot of people know this who know you. You're half black. Your dad's black. Your mom's white, German. And you were
so this is not going to be a van. Your son-in-law.
My son-in-law and my daughter.
Right. So he's not going to be a van.
But,
he's going to be
but my grandson will be half black. As your family gets less black, my family gets more black, Eddie. When does the black privilege come over to my...
No. Your family, it's actually going to become less black.
Why, no. It's just the same thing with you. Your kids don't have those African features like you do. And your grandkids, it's hardly a trace.
Yeah,
right?
it's a genetic reality.
Right.
That for some reason, everything genetically, it gravitates to the white.
Yeah, over time. But those features initially are more dominant.
Right. It's like if you take black ink and white ink and mix it together, it's going to be dark.
Right.
But then as you keep mixing, it's going to get lighter.
But Eddie, and
then don't forget the throwback, though.
What?
2 or 3 generations you may have, they may all look white, but then you're going to get that throwback black kid coming out.
Scandal in the family.
Yeah, the scandal, yeah.
But Eddie, so as my grandson gets a little older, he's going to have to come to you for lessons on how to exercise black privilege.
It doesn't take much.
No, it doesn't.
You just exercise it.
Yeah.
You just claim it.
Yeah. There you go.
Boy, the worst I saw was this video of this girl where her dad died, and she was just, it was her dad or her mother, one of her parents, the white parent, she was mixed, and the white parent, and she was at the funeral just coming down on the whiteness in her mother, and I'm thinking, what is wrong with you? I mean, are you kidding me? Your life is going to be short. I always think of was the 6th commandment, honor thy father and thy mother. Okay. What a lot of people don't realize is that's not the whole commandment. Most people don't know what the whole commandment actually says.
Well, the promise comes after the direct command.
Right, but it's part of the commandment. Yeah. It's in there.
Right. It includes a promise.
Right. What is that promise?
That it may be well with thee and that thou may live long upon the earth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what people, and that's something that should be instilled in children. When you're teaching the commandments, don't leave that part out.
Yeah.
I didn't even know nobody ever taught me that.
Yeah.
But it is one that I truly believe in. That you honor your father and your mother all their lives. And if we as a nation, we probably talked about this before, that if we as a nation, as a people, would do that and have done that, we wouldn't have welfare. We wouldn't have disability income. We wouldn't have economic issues that we have.
Yeah.
Because our society would be, you take the Mennonites, the Quakers, they have that own social system within themselves.
Yeah, you went into it last week, just how to care for the elderly.
Okay, then I did talk about it. My life may be long, but my memory is short.
Yeah. Well, and Moses, in bringing that down from the mountain to the people, he said, that. And then in Deuteronomy, the next book God inspired me to write, literally gave the commandment that reinforced it. It said if a kid will not obey their parents, if he's rebellious, or he or she, they take him to the priest. And so you got witnesses in that. But that's grounds for stoning to death. Stoning a kid to death. Yeah. How's that child welfare department?
Yeah. But no, it's just, it seemed, I remember when my dad was passing away, he had cancer, and the hospice people came, and the one girl that was there, and I think we talked about this again. My daughter, my mom, my youngest son, and I, we were the ones that were able to be there. And the hospice lady told us she couldn't believe how we took care of my dad and how we surrounded him, and we would pray for him and sing to him and talk to him. And we were just around his bed the whole time with him, laying. It was a big king bed, and, one of us was always laying there next to him, talking to him or reading to him or something. He was pretty much out of it on morphine, but and she was saying, it's just amazing to me how much you guys love this man. And we were saying, what do you mean? What's so unusual? She said, you can't believe what I see in the houses we go to. The person's dying in the bedroom, and out in the living room, the kids are fighting about who gets what. They're more interested in who dividing up the spoils or what the inheritance, who's going to get what and take what, and they're arguing and fighting out there while the person's dying in the other room. And we can't, we can't even, it just boggles my mind. We can't even imagine that.
But now it all makes sense to me. You see all these movies where after the funeral, then they go to the lawyer's office and he reads the will. Why did they keep the will such a secret? Exactly. So everybody will be civilized.
Well,
not knowing
until the lawyer's office. Then
yes. Then the fighting begins.
Yeah, and even my mother-in-law and father-in-law, when they passed away, and on my wife's side, like everybody put my brother-in-law in charge of my mother-in-law's stuff and my sister-in-law and the father-in-law stuff. And each one, took it, 1/3 of whatever financial was there went to each. Yeah. And then as far as the goods, here's what's here. What do you want? There were 3 of them. Yeah. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Do any of you want that? Whatever you don't want, we're going to sell it. And it was just done in such a, an equitable way.
Yeah.
Nobody really cared. Because it was more important, the loss of the life than the gain from their life.
Yeah.
And this is one of the big failings today in our society, that people no longer have respect for the life that was lived. There's so much more concern about me. Yeah. And they don't care about each other anymore. Mm-hmm. Rather than, listen, I don't care. Like my wife's grandfather. He was, I may have mentioned this, he was a Texas, and Arizona. He worked for the U.S. Border Patrol, but back in the early 1900s. Mm-hmm. In fact, he had some incredible stories of shootouts with, back then it was smugglers, drug and alcohol smugglers, even during Prohibition, and how, his partner was shot next to him, and the only reason he lived is because the smuggler's gun jammed. Wow. And then he shot the smuggler dead. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. But he had this, like, a storm shelter, those big concrete storm shelter. Mm-hmm. This was in Nogales, Arizona. And in it, though, the vault was guns. Wow. Just 50, 60, and early vintage guns. Yeah. And so he asked me, you want to go out with me and you pick whatever you want, gun-wise. And he wanted to give this to me. And I was anti-gun back in those days. Not that I wasn't anti-gun. I just didn't want one. Yeah. Guns still scared me. I didn't
Well, you grew up in Philly.
Right. I didn't understand them. So my brother-in-law got all of them, But there were some very valuable, old shotguns, old rifles, pistols, everything.
You confused me here. You said your brother, no.
Brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law, okay.
My brother-in-law, my wife's brother, he got them all. He's a real hunter. He's a big game hunter.
Okay, because I thought, Eddie, I thought you were an only child. Which,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, my brother-in-law, he got them. And I was happy that he got them, Mm-hmm. But anyway, it was just one of those deals that, we've never, and I never, cared.
Well, yeah, in Philly, they had to be pretty tight on gun restrictions, even in the 70s when you were a teen there, right?
Well, yeah, but that didn't matter because we made our own. Remember the zip gun?
Ooh.
Yeah. You could make your
Eddie's in the hood those days.
Yeah. I mean, that didn't stop people, but people weren't so crazy. You didn't.
But they associated with crime.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it wasn't the duck hunters, ducks.
Right. Yeah, but no, I mean, I honestly was like most people, like my friends today, my black friends today, they're afraid of gun. Like if I go to visit my old fraternity brothers in Dallas or wherever, and I have my weapons with me, and I don't want to leave them. Like I'll spend a night at one of my buddies in Dallas's house, and I don't want to leave them in the car. I put them in the house. I mean, just scared to death. And I'll show the gun. I mean, they're afraid even to touch them because they think the gun's going to explode or something. Yeah. I mean, that's how and I was like that. You're almost afraid to touch it because you're so indoctrinated that just touching a gun, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's how the news, that's how so many people today feel about weapons.
Yeah.
That just having one, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's what's been associated in the mind. And just imagine as a child now, there's a whole generation that's been convinced that to even have a weapon in your proximity, something bad is going to happen. You no longer, it used to be you wanted a weapon for hunting, for self-defense, for whatever. Now it's the only use for a weapon is to kill humans, to kill somebody, or it's going to go off, and you're either going to accidentally or on purpose kill someone else.
Yeah.
Or you're going to die.
Biden says you don't need a 30 bullet magazine to go deer hunting. But, I studied a little bit about after Edison actually developed the light bulb, which was the first harnessed application of electricity. Before that, electricity was always seen as a killer, right? Because it happens in nature, lightning. But J.P. Morgan, he got investors in his startup called General Electric because he put up a little power plant near his home in New York City. And he would invite people over in the evening, and he would turn on the chandelier because chandeliers were always candles, and that was kind of how that creativity, what can happen with this. And then he hired away Tesla from Edison and, worked on AC current, which you could send a lot further. And then these power plants could do whole counties, but
wasn't it the opposite? Tesla was DC, wasn't he? And Edison had the AC.
Maybe
that's another story. But anyway.
Yeah, at any rate, Tesla was such an innovator on it. And, the big power lines that they run, those are actually DC, according to my brother who built the power stations. Well, anyway, the point is, if the first utilized purpose of electricity was to wire up an electric chair to execute people, would we really have embraced electricity? Yeah. What J.P. Morgan had to do was kind of reintroduce electricity as this harnessed energy that could do so much. And, so that to me is, it's kind of like it is with guns. If you don't get out and hunt, you don't get out and join a skeet shooting club or anything like that, your only association with guns is going to be, to prevent crime or to carry out a crime.
Right. See, there it is right there. See, if you could somehow convince me or the gun owners of America that you're going to get the guns out of the hands of the bad guys, then I wouldn't need a deterrent in my hands. All I would need is something. Yes.
That's a huge if.
Exactly. Yes, you're right. I don't need an AR-15, an AR-10, whatever. I don't need a 30 bullet mag to go deer hunting.
Okay.
Duck hunting, whatever. Okay. But I do need it if my home's being invaded by 5 people that have 30 bullet mags or 10 or 6 bullet mags. Because if you got 5 people with 6 bullet magazines, that's 30 rounds they have. And if I only have 6, then I'm outnumbered. I'm outgunned. And by the time I switch, one of those others can get me. So basically, as far as home defense, this evens the number.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the reasoning. And in today's society, with cartels coming over, you know, it's funny. The anti-gun lobby, they're always wanting to compare the U.S. to these nations like Australia, Norway, Finland.
Yes, where all the sheep live.
Yeah. But where they have these strict gun laws and the low gun crimes, right?
They leave Switzerland out of that.
Well, I'll tell you who else they leave out. Mexico.
Okay.
And Mexico has the highest gun murder rate on earth.
And guns are illegal.
And guns are illegal. Exactly. Private ownership of guns. Exactly. So why are you not, and they're right next to, why do you have to go all the way to Australia and New Zealand? Why do you have to go to Scandinavia?
Oh, that's a great point.
To Europe to pull up those numbers? Let's just go south of the border, right across from the U.S., where we're letting people come in willy-nilly. And I've got an article.
Yeah, I think we got a segue into that story about the border.
Yeah. I just got this off the wires here a little bit ago. Mexico demands answers amid flood of U.S. military-grade weapons to drug cartels. So wait a minute. So you're telling me the drug cartels are getting a flood of military-grade weapons from the U.S., and we're supposed to not care and not worry about it. The Mexican government has demanded an urgent investigation on how U.S.-grade weapons have ended up in the hands of drug cartels. Now, first of all, that the Mexican government really is worried about it or cares, that's something questionable too, because the Mexican government, to me, is not the most trustworthy government, and their police force is not the most reliable.
Right.
Either.
They've either lost control or they're complicit. You pick.
Right. Weapons like this present an extreme danger when they land in the hands of criminals. Cristina Mastrapasqua, a spokesman for the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, ATF, basically, told Fox Digital, a danger not only to public but to law enforcement agents on both sides of the border. And not just law enforcement, but it's going to pose a threat to individuals. Operation Southbound is ATF's primary operational initiative to disrupt trafficking of firearms. Southbound is focused on the 4 southwest border states, as the majority of firearms being trafficked into Mexico originate from there, but it's not exclusive to those states. Now, you remember several years ago,
I remember Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious, exactly, where we actually were behind it.
Obama literally sent a bunch of guns that he was trying to make illegal here, sent them over there, and he claims the reason is so we could trace the trafficking, and then that made him complicit in all the murders that happened, including a beauty pageant queen who was murdered with one of those guns.
Right, as well as our own Border Patrol people that were shot with those same weapons.
Those same guns.
Right.
And if it happened 10 years ago, how are we supposed to believe Biden's not doing the same stuff again?
Thank you. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Right, exactly. Yeah, no, there's so much stupid stuff going on with this administration. It's just
We've got a constitutional crisis now.
Yeah.
Because this week, Supreme Court on a split decision, 5-4, said despite everything that the Texas National Guard, under the control of Governor Greg Abbott, Texas governor, they were putting up razor wire because the federal border agents were not protecting our borders from invasion. And the Supreme Court said that the federal government has authority to go in and clear out all that razor wire. And so now Greg Abbott's just putting more up. And 10 states have said, we're sending Guard troops.
I want to address this because this is very important for people to understand. And I ask you to put this word out to your friends, family, everywhere. Stay out of it. I'm seeing on Facebook where militias and individuals are wanting to head to the border to help with this border enforcement. As Moms Mabley once said, if you see me in the bear fight, help the bear. Because you're not helping me. You're not helping the government. You're not helping Greg Abbott or these 10 governors who are sending their legitimate National Guard, their legitimate, in their opinion, lawful authority to assist in what's going on. You are now stepping in and you're creating a new January 6th situation, only magnified about 100 times. And so if you think January 6th was a setup, you haven't seen anything yet, because now you're actually talking Civil War, true sedition, and you don't want anything to do with that. So do not get within 100 miles of the border. Tell your friends, your family, anybody you know to stay away from the border. And this, let these governors handle it. Let their National Guards handle it, because all you can do is mess it up and create. It's too obvious. It's too obvious. I don't know how conservatives keep screwing things up. It goes back to when Nancy Pelosi marched with that giant gavel to the chamber way back to approve Obamacare, and all the 1,000 people were yelling and screaming at her and her delegation walking through that crowd. All we had to do and should have done is become deathly silent and turn our backs.
There you go.
Turn our backs, become silent, not said a word. Can you imagine if it had been dead silence and everybody turned their backs on her as she goes walking through there?
Yeah.
That would have been the right, but no, and then, of course, the St. Louis or the Missouri congressman says they were calling him the N-word and spitting at him, which we know it didn't happen. But the media, of course, said he did,
Right.
And if we had just gone silent, turned our backs, let her walk through a totally silent crowd, the media would have had no fodder. If we had remained cool on January 6th, they would have had no fodder right now. Nothing against Trump, nothing against anybody. We wouldn't have people in prison right now. The same thing with this. We have got to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves instead of wise as doves and harmless as serpents, which we too often become. And I believe this is all orchestrated by certain entities. There are going to be undercover FBI agents and other entities involved in this, trying to get. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these entities are pure left-wing organizations doing this that will be trying to pretend that they are right-wing or conservative groups. So anyway, this is my warning. Please, please, please stay as far away from the border, all the way from Texas to California.
I want to add something to that. I agree with everything you said here. Nathan Dahm, state senator, guest on the show. I think he's going to be in studio next week, or he's trying to make himself available if it works in our schedule. But he has pointed out in the Oklahoma Constitution, there is an Oklahoma militia, and our Constitution authorizes it. It is 3 parts. The National Guard, which we understand, and the U.S. Constitution says that the president can nationalize them at any time to where they're mobilized. Then they're no longer under the governor's command. But then it refers to something called the State Guard. And that, again, that would be something under the governor. And then the third part of the militia is every able-bodied man between 18 and 70. But you're not part of that militia unless and until you are under the direct submission of the governor. Now, the governor has called out the unorganized militia in the past. The governor of Oklahoma, it was Alfalfa Murray.
Alfalfa, that's right.
Yeah, that was his nickname, William Murray.
And when did this happen?
This was in either 31 or 32. Okay, 1931.
And for what purpose?
We'd made a compact with Texas, and Texas broke the terms of the compact. We had a ferry that went across the Red River at Durant, and it served half the state trying to get to Texas. And for Texas, for them, their shipment of goods to the rest of the nation.
Right.
We split the cost with Texas to build a bridge, but we said that ferry in Durant is going to get put out of business by this. We've got to buy his assets. Texas agreed they'd pay for it. The bridge got built. It was all set to open. And the Texas legislature, which only convenes once every 2 years, they convened without appropriating the funds. The bridge was open, and the Texas guards stood watching. And Bill Murray, Governor Murray, goes down there with the militia, and he marches on that bridge. It's referred to as the Red River Bridge War. Now, there was never a shot fired because the Texans had the good sense to back up and not put up a fight, because the Supreme Court has said that the border of Oklahoma extends all the way to the hard bank on the south side of the Red River. Mm-hmm. So that bridge was entirely in Oklahoma.
The sign is actually in the wrong place.
It could be.
The sign should be on the other side
on
of the river.
Hard bank.
Right.
Hard bank. Okay.
Right.
So anyway, and we went down there and we shut that bridge, and the Texas traffic was backed up and had to find another way. And what do you know? They came up with the money and cut the check. And the Durant Ferry Company got paid once he confirmed, yep, the check cleared the bank. We opened the bridge.
All right.
But now Bill Murray was a colorful character.
Right, but there's a difference here, okay? Mm-hmm. There's a difference. That was state versus state.
Under the governor.
Right.
The governor's authority.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Until you hear, Mr. Oklahoman, until you've heard from the governor,
right,
stay out of it.
Right.
Okay? And even when you hear from the governor, you're not conscripted. Okay? Use your good sense. Because governors aren't always right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. So right now I say keep as far away. I say 100 miles because you should be safe. As we find out from our dear friend with what's his name from the Proud Boys, 100 miles.
Enrico.
Enrico.
Yeah.
Tario. That wasn't far enough. 100 miles didn't save him. But no, seriously though, you do not want to be anywhere near this.
Yeah,
this is a dispute between governors of the states and the president of the United States.
Well, and I'll say the states themselves, not just the governors.
Well,
the governors are
right, but right now it falls under the jurisdiction of the executive officer of the states. Okay,
25 states have expressed solidarity with Governor Abbott on this. 10 states have pledged National Guard troops. 10 as of this morning.
Right.
I don't know which 10 they are, but I think it's very, very plausible, given we've had 3 years now of chaos and anarchy at the borders.
Yeah.
Letting everybody in.
I'm wondering why we waited this long. That's my question.
Yeah. My concern is, and we've seen it when the Shah abdicated, left Iran. All of a sudden, the Ayatollahs,
the vacuum
people, they came out everywhere. They were ready.
Oh.
They were embedded. They were in place. And when they got word, the insurrection came from 1,000 different places at once. And you didn't know who was a foreign agent. And we could be at any point. And you and I have said, God knows what could happen this year.
Yeah, sure. No, that's exactly right. And this again, like I said, I think a lot of this is orchestrated, which let's just end this saying, as we said, let this be handled at the executive level, the state executive, the national executives. But I want to move from there into the election.
Oh, yeah. Can I say one more thing to back up what you're saying? It'd be different if no governor was showing the balls to do anything. Mm-hmm. But we've got governors now, Stamp.
Right.
Okay. So it's not up to you.
Right.
Your governors are handling. This is why we elect them.
Right, right. And I smell a rat with all of these
I think you're right.
people trying to foment an uprising among the people. Okay. Right. But please don't let it stop with you. Pass it on. Tell people, stay away, stay away, stay away. Just wait and pray.
You might be doing well just to protect your home this year.
Right. Speaking of that, let's turn to the election.
Yeah, we had another one, didn't we, this week?
We did. And so Trump has now won 2 of the primaries, handily won both by 50%.
Depending on which.
Everybody.
He got
50% of the vote or more in both elections.
Yes, 55 if you count all the independents.
Right. I'm just saying. Okay.
I know.
Quit being picayune. It's over 50%.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
It's even better.
You just won't quit.
I'm kidding about it. I'm sorry.
Right. So, anyway, I'm losing my train of thought quickly. Anyway, but Ron DeSantis has dropped out. The others have dropped out. I'll tell you what's really interesting is after the victory in New Hampshire, standing behind him were 2 minorities, the bigoted president, former president, and leading candidate. He's got a black guy and an East Indian behind him as his 2 main supporters. And it's funny because you could almost have predicted this because you remember in the whole campaign so far, they're the 2 that never said anything negative about him. And they're the 2 guys standing behind him. And as I told you, it turns out I found out that Tim Scott is actually my cousin. I found out he's actually my cousin, which is weird. He doesn't know it yet. And I don't know if
you're smarter than him then.
I'm smarter than Tim.
Yeah, because you know your cousins, but he doesn't. That makes you smarter.
Yeah, I know something he does. I should get Mark Wayne Mullen to let him know. But anyway, it's really funny because in my cousins in Philadelphia, they're all and on the East, they're all staunch Democrats and hate Trump,
Kool-Aid drinkers.
But it's funny now because now they have two of us that are on that side. We're both, and we're not just Republicans. I mean, we're really Republican. Real conservative. But anyway, but it's interesting, those two, and a lot of the money is on one of those two, Tim Scott or Vivek, being the VP. My money is still on somebody else. What do you think?
Well, you've told me, Christy Noem.
Yeah, look at you. You paid it. Someone's paying attention.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking Christy Noem.
I still, I was 3 weeks ago, I said Carrie Lake. And then last week I had to nuance it and say, no, I think now it's more likely Vivek. I tell you why. You've seen two speeches now where those two guys have shared the stage, and Vivek's still on the tour. He's out in Las Vegas at gun shows.
Gun shows?
Yes. And
Vivek.
Yes, and he is on the road for Trump. Now, so is Carrie Lake.
Yeah.
So, but we've got that little bit of scandal going on with Carrie Lake being offered a bribe by the guy who just now had to resign as the Arizona GOP chairman.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, we're going all over the place. But here, getting back to the election of last Tuesday night, is that if you look at the registered Republicans who actually have, in my opinion, a stockholders, say in this.
Right, exactly.
74%.
This is very, very important.
74%.
74%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is despite.
And of those, if you look at how many voted still for DeSantis and then voted for Vivek and also Rand's, what's her name? Got 8%?
Yeah, they split that DeSantis vote. Trump benefited as much from DeSantis getting out.
No, what I'm saying, because in spite of it, they still voted. They still got, DeSantis still got 8% of the vote.
Was it that much?
8 or 9, yeah. Yeah, it was that much. Yeah. In spite of the fact that he got 50%, she got 40-something, then it was another 8% for DeSantis and . So if you think about it, if you take the 70% of her vote and then you add DeSantis's and the other Republican vote and you add it all together, he just creamed her. He got, you would take probably, let's say you split DeSantis's vote and the others, Trump probably got 85% of the vote.
Yeah, CBS News actually did exit polling as people came out of casting their vote. And that's where I'm getting my numbers from.
Right.
If you look at Real Clear Politics, average of polls, they sound a lot like what you had said, but they were taking polls from before and after DeSantis' announcement.
Right.
So what I think I'm seeing here is a narrative that's very much like 8 years ago, John Kasich. And maybe your name ought to be Nikki Kasich. Because Kasich, we all see how popular and influential John Kasich is today, right? No. And then Nikki didn't even try to compete in Nevada, which that's coming up here next.
Right. So that's an automatic Trump.
Right. And so then the last thing we're going to see before we go to the polls is going to be
South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina. And that, unfortunately, is even worse polling eligibility or electoral eligibility than New Hampshire. Because anybody from either party evidently can vote in either the Republican or the Democrat. Oh. I'm going to check up on that a little bit more, but
I don't think so.
Okay, I know independents can vote in that one.
That may be,
And so I'm very concerned.
Yeah, what people are thinking, this is the thought behind her sticking in, is that she is counting on Trump being convicted of something.
That's really what it is.
And being disqualified, and then she is the only one left, and she will, by default, get the nomination.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, does the party have to nominate her out of default, or can they still...
No. Yeah, exactly. This was the same thing we saw when Bobby Kennedy got shot and killed in '68, the morning after his win in the last primary, California, June 3rd, I think it was. Anyway,
so he had the majority of delegates at the time.
No, nobody had a clear majority in that one, but he had the momentum.
Right.
He just kept building, and all of a sudden he's cleaning house at the end there. So, a lot of those early states, if they had it to do over again, the results would have been way different. Right. So, no, what happens is if Trump is not firmly placed in nomination at the Republican National Convention, all of his pledged delegates become uncommitted. What Nikki is disillusioned in thinking is that somehow we will love her more because we aren't able to show our love for Trump. Someone has denied us. She also is thinking maybe we will have this enlightenment that realize, oh, Trump is a terrible criminal. He is the scourge of the earth. We need somebody new to love, you know? And no, either way, she doesn't get it.
At that point, I mean, I'm already changing my view in that, just in thinking of her thinking this way. It makes Ron DeSantis more appealing. Mm-hmm. To me, the next choice is Ron DeSantis because he was number 2 in the last 2. Well, he was, yeah, he's number 2 in the last 2. That sounds weird, but he was number 2 in Iowa.
In Iowa. Now, keep in mind, he dumped all his money in Iowa.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Polling in
I don't
other
care how
states.
much money. I don't care how much money he dumped. It's still.
I'm saying it's manufactured. The fact that he got 20% or Nikki got 19%, both are manufactured.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I don't care. He's number 2 because Trump is number 1.
Yeah.
You know, with a bullet, as they used to say, you know, in the top 40.
At that point, I'd be all in for Vivek.
You'd be all in for Vivek, yeah.
And the Trump people are going to fall in love with Vivek more and more and more now.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if enough of the Trump people are going to, because see, the greatest thing that Ron did was falling out, attacking, I call her Hillary, Hillary, but
Nikki Kasich.
Yeah, Nikki Kasich, Hillary, and for him to get behind Trump now.
Okay, now you're on to a very good strategy.
Right, and then what happens by that time at the end? Then everybody can jump behind him.
Right. If we see Ron, at least for a time, making a strong push, like when it comes to the Florida primary, get out there, be a surrogate, especially.
Right. Because what really blows me away, I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it because I don't know if I could do it. Mm-hmm. The way that 2 of the strongest people speaking up for Trump today are 2 of the people that he just savaged in 2016. Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. I saw Ted Cruz just last night on Newsmax. Ted Cruz was just singing the praises of Donald Trump like nobody's business.
Right.
And Ted Cruz, I mean, my goodness, you know, the way he did his wife.
Yeah, I was going to say.
His father.
You attack me and I'm fine. You go after my wife.
And his father. His father. The only thing he didn't touch was his mother. I mean, basically, you know, and yet Ted Cruz was man enough to let it go. And for the sake of the nation, he sees this is the guy.
Yeah.
Marco Cruz. Marco Cruz. Marco Rubio. Again, I saw him, and he's out there totally supporting Donald Trump. When these guys, if these guys that Donald Trump, to me, insulted and damaged as much as he did then, can forgive and support the man the way they do, tells me that there's something they see in him that they don't see in the others. And as far as for our country, they see that this is the guy they need to support.
Yeah.
And it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes to me. And we know, I mean, if anybody is even looking, if you look at who's behind Nikki or Hillary, I put that Hillary. You can see where the money is coming from, who her supporters are, what she's. Have you seen this on YouTube? I came across this video. I posted it on my Facebook page and two others. It's all the flip flops. Oh, it's crazy.
Oh, I mean, Nikki. Yes.
The direct flip flops where she it's not even she kind of hinted. No, she said, I won't do this. And then she says, we got to do this. I won't do this. We've got to do this. We shouldn't do this. We've got to do this. I mean, it's that clear. It's like saying you've got to go east. And then the next day we've got to go west. It is totally, I mean, the lady is bad news. I mean, seriously, totally bad news. She's just basically a witch. Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
So,
March 5th.
March 5th.
Now, there's dates also within a few days of there, but March 5th, that's when Oklahoma goes to polls, and 14 other
states.
Yeah, states and territories included. But that includes the two biggest states in the nation, March 5th, California and Texas. So it's just going to be a massive messing. Now, that's the day to watch for you're talking about is which one of these surrogates get out there.
It's my wife's birthday, too.
Really? Yeah. There you go. So that's going to be when the surrogates get out there. Because there's just no way Trump's going to make it to all those states in a way that he wants to. But you will see, those surrogates out there. And they will not only be promoting him, but they will also be shoring up. You can count on me to carry that mantle for him if needed.
Yeah, I think by March 5th, you are going to see so many surrogates out there, Republican surrogates.
Yeah.
I believe you will see Ron DeSantis. You've got Vivek. You've got Tim Scott. Mm-hmm. I still think you've got Kristi Noem as the VP. Mm-hmm. You're going to have Carrie Lake out there. See, one reason I don't think he's going to nominate Carrie Lake, I think Carrie is set on becoming senator.
What happened this week really makes me think you're right. That's why I'm more now with Vivek. I know you're still a Kristi Noem speculator, but yeah, Carrie now is all in.
Right. I'll tell you what. Vivek, what would make Vivek attractive is Vivek brings in youth. A lot of young people really like him.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Vivek, he's shown up on all these black podcasts. Mm-hmm. The Charlemagne the God.
Yes.
He's been on his show now twice. He's not afraid to go on there.
Yes.
He will get on there and deal with these people.
Yeah, what they call him, the king of long-form podcasts, a conservative king.
Long-form.
Well, the conversation.
No, I know, yeah.
The Joe Rogan type thing.
But he's not afraid. I mean, he gets on there and, he goes with it. But whether he does that or he just does it as a surrogate, but if you have, and then you add to that Ron DeSantis going out as it, you've got, what's the black congressman from Florida? He was considered possibly Vice President
Byron
Donalds. Byron Donalds. I mean, he's got so many surrogates. The only thing he won't have is the never Trumpers, which you still got a bunch of. The guy that's really starting to bug me, which I don't understand, and he seemed like a good guy, but he's just, there's something not right there, and it's Chip Roy.
Yeah.
Chip Roy is basically a never Trumper. He's in the Nikki Haley camp now.
Well, him and Thomas Massey, two guys I got a lot of regard for, but they were to the bitter end. They were with DeSantis.
Yeah. Well, now I don't know about Massey, but Roy is now a Haley guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how in the world he can be for Nikki Haley.
I think what's really interesting, and Rand Paul really kicked this off, was the Never Nikki deal. Because he came on, this was when DeSantis was still in the fight. And he said, I'm not endorsing Trump. I'm not endorsing DeSantis. I'm endorsing whoever isn't Nikki Haley.
Good.
He just absolutely does not want Nikki. What I want to say now, fellow Oklahomans, I need your help. Our top Republican leaders in the state, elected leaders, our governor, our lieutenant governor is a Trump supporter, Matt Pinnell. Speaker of the House, Charles McCall, Senate pro temp leader, Greg Treat. Bunch of these guys all got on the bandwagon for DeSantis last summer. Big event. They were making a huge splash in this state, right? It went nowhere. And now all of a sudden, they're all off to the tall weeds. And I'm going to say you're in the tall weeds until you get out there. Listen, you guys are all at the Capitol. You guys are going into session in, 8 days? All right? You got your own press room. Get out there. Tell us who you are for. Because the people who are supporting Donald Trump and mad as hell about what's been going on and continues to go on, and got even worse this week with this idiot lawsuit judgment against him. I mean, we're just like, are you guys spineless?
I've got one word for you. It's called Tabasco. It'll make that crow taste a whole lot better. Okay. Just get some Tabasco, pour it on your tongues, and then go out and say, we now support Donald Trump.
Yeah. See,
Ron DeSantis was a great candidate. We feel he's a great governor, et cetera. But President Trump fought a good fight. It's clear that he is the people's candidate. Mm-hmm. We now totally support President Trump.
Yeah.
That's it. Once that's
that was it.
It's all forgotten. I mean, it's not easy. It's not a rocket science.
You know what?
My goodness.
Here's the thing. Everett Piper and I were at the Republican Men's Club luncheon about 4 months after Trump got into office. And we're talking about all this stuff because
he's another one that needs to eat some crow.
Well, hang on here.
Okay.
Because he was really tough on him. Yeah, he was a big Cruz supporter, as was I. We didn't know Trump was a big question mark. We heard what he said, but he had never served in public office.
No, I'm talking about this run.
Right.
He was
Here's what I want to say, though. He got up because he was a speaker that day, and he said, before I get into what I plan to speak about today, let me get this out of the way. About Donald Trump, crow never tasted so good. He ate his words back in March of 17. And I'm saying with Governor Stitt, with Greg Treat.
Wait, tell me. No, I don't want to move on. I'm talking about he's been against Trump this year.
Okay, I have not heard that.
Oh, yeah, okay. No, he's gone back the other way again.
Oh, God.
This was last year. He was, I was arguing with him on Twitter.
Okay, there we go. So, yeah, but these guys, they've seen the politics. Because everybody I talk to who is less than excited about Trump, and they tell me their misgivings, they never talk about his policies. As I talked one businessman, multi-millionaire, employs hundreds, thousands. I was taking down his Christmas lights, or putting them up actually, and he said, we can't have Trump, And I said, let me ask you this. Trump's policies, how are they different from Reagan's? He said, yeah, they're pretty much the same as Reagan. And I said, I elect a president because of the policies he's going to put in place.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I said, it's not about personalities. I said, he's proven himself. I know his policies. And this guy, he came outside kind of, on a little bit of a mission, Dave's political. He can help me get, keep Trump out, And I'm like, no, maybe you're right,
Yeah, see, that's what it is. These people have no understanding of what's really important for our nation.
Yeah.
You don't like his personality.
Yeah.
Nobody asked you to like his personality.
Yeah, that's all optics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And here's what's funny about Donald Trump, though. Every person that I've ever seen that has met the man in person says he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. I remember, this is a funny story, back, this is probably around 2012, somewhere, Mike Leach. Mm-hmm. He, maybe it was even earlier. Anyway.
Now, this is a football coach.
Football coach at Texas. He was at Texas Tech. And Trump became this big Texas Tech Mike Leach fan. Mm-hmm. And so they were talking about how in the heck did Mike Leach end up with being friend. In fact, they had Mike Leach, Trump talking, introducing the game one time, talking in the middle of the game. And they were saying, how in the heck did that? And they say Mike was with his daughter walking around New York, and they walked in front of Trump Tower. They're walking by and say, hey, you want to see if Donald Trump is in? He didn't know him, never met, nothing, anything. And so he walks in and he says, hi, my name is Mike Leach, football coach at Texas Tech. Is Mr. Trump in? Mm-hmm. So they said, well, let me see. And Mr. Trump, there's a football coach from Texas Tech University named Mike Leach. He wanted to know if you're in. He said, yeah, send him up. Mm-hmm. That's how he met. He never, and Mike Leach's thing was, you never know unless you ask.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Sure.
And Trump respected it because that's one of the art of the deal things. You never know unless you ask.
Yeah.
Right? That's that's a sales thing.
Yeah.
That you'll never be successful in anything if you don't ask or if you don't try.
Yeah.
And so next thing you know, he takes his daughter up and they're in Trump's office in Trump Tower and he meets him. And Trump liked him, and next thing you know, a relationship started, and they became friends.
Yeah.
So Trump even sent a thing when Leach died last year, or actually a year before last. Wow, time flies. And Trump even sent, a message at his funeral.
Yeah.
So, but this is the type of thing that he does.
Yeah.
And the behind-the-scenes stuff, like there was a guy who used to be the not bouncer, but one of the security guards at Madison Square Garden. Mm-hmm. And, just a guy standing at the door, and he wasn't there one day, and his son was there or something, and he said, hey, where's your dad? And he said, oh, my mom's sick. He wrote something on this piece of paper, gave it to the kid to give his dad, and then next thing you know, it was his number and so Trump actually, he calls and Trump goes to him, gives him several $1,000s, He's driving by, there's a story, he's driving on the Brooklyn Bridge, and one of the bridge, some guy's about to kill himself and he talks him down. Mm-hmm. These are things, he's not one of these people that makes stuff, no, he does a lot of stuff quietly that people don't know. But because you see his braggadocious public persona,
right?
everybody gets this negative
But how
opinion
he
of him.
treats you doesn't depend on who you are.
Right.
It depends on who Donald Trump is. And he is that same person.
Right.
To the big and small, great and mighty,
Right.
weak and lowly. Because, what can a guy Madison Square Garden do for him? What can a guy about to kill himself on the Brooklyn Bridge do for him? But, yeah, that's...
I just got this thing I saw yesterday, and I could not quit laughing. And the guy who posted it, too, there's this clip on it was on Facebook, and I sent it out, too. And it's the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Have you seen this?
No.
And he's sitting here like, he's all haughty, he's looking around and he's got people around him. And so all of a sudden Donald Trump walks by. Oh, and it says one of the cardinal rules, you never touch the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, right? Nobody touches him. And here comes Donald Trump walking by. And as he walks by, he hits him. He does it. Does this. And, just while he doesn't even look at me, and keeps walking. And the guy goes, he does
the
it.
guy's full of himself.
Yeah, he does this and looks, and then he sees Donald Trump walking by. Donald just keeps walking by, and Trump doesn't even look. He just hits him in the eye, but the way the guy like, who touched me, it was but then they said afterwards the guy actually, when he saw it was Donald Trump, the guy starts laughing. It doesn't show that, but they said after it was over, it wasn't a big deal because the guy said, it's just Donald Trump. Yeah. Because they know him. Nobody else will touch him, but it was Trump, But anyway, that's just how this guy is. But when you watch this video and watch the reaction and the way Trump just walks by, just as, and then the guy doing this like.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to psychoanalyze this.
Okay.
What that tells me is Donald Trump is saying to this guy, I'd really like to get to know you if you weren't so full of yourself. Because Donald didn't stop to say hi or anything or kiss up. He's just like, I'd like to be your buddy. I'd like to be on a first name basis.
Well, either that or he already knew him. And without trying to draw a bunch of stand, what's up?
Yeah.
It's just, what's up? And then when the guy didn't know, and then when he saw it was Donald, and he said, okay. It was kind of low key. He didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but that they already know each other because, billionaire to gazillionaire. These guys have so much money. It's crazy. But anyway, it's just the most hilarious video. The way he, But anyway, back to the reality of things. Nikki's only game would be to hope that there's a conviction, Donald gets disqualified, and she's the last woman standing, the last person standing. But as you've, I think, clarified, that doesn't mean, still doesn't mean
no,
she gets
she's delusional.
Because they can still.
They become uncommitted delegates.
And they can then at that point commit to Ron DeSantis, Vivek, Eddie Huff if they wanted to. Okay.
Yeah, because, in 2008, we had Huckabee delegates, we had Gingrich delegates. No, not Gingrich. We had Romney delegates, and we had McCain delegates. You get to the convention, some of those had dropped out. And one Ron Paul supporter, actually, because he was now uncommitted, he was a released delegate, he cast his vote for Ron Paul. A bunch of people got upset, thought it was the most terrible thing in the world. They wouldn't have thought it was terrible for him to vote for Romney, but Ron Paul. And so 4 years later, I'm talking to one of the leaders of the Ron Paul campaign. I said, one of your supporters broke the rules. And he explained to me, no, we followed the rules. When you're uncommitted, you can vote for Pat Paulson. You can vote for anyone.
Pat Paulson.
Remember when he ran?
Smothers Brothers. Oh, my God. Hey, one thing, though, I think we can see with this Nikki Haley thing, though, is you can see who the rhinos are.
Yes.
Anybody that is still hoping Nikki Haley pulls it out.
Yes, somebody called her Nikki Raytheon. Because it is the military-industrial complex that is largely funding her now.
Yeah. So if any political, which I think that's who Chip Roy is supporting, is Nikki Haley.
I remember him going.
No, he was DeSantis.
DeSantis,
but no, I'm talking about this was yesterday.
Wow.
He now is. Yeah, there's some bone he has to pick with Trump. Yeah. And so it's so bad that he's now jumped from DeSantis to Nikki.
Okay, if it's a personal thing, get over it, Chip. Yeah. If it's a policy thing, then explain it.
Yeah.
Okay, it just, but when they, and I'm going to say policy, not personality, policy.
Have you noticed, one thing I've noticed on Fox News, there's a new tone there towards Trump. Yeah, they moderated their tone. Even Neil Cavuto has gotten more moderate. He's still not in love with Donald, but the negativity towards Donald isn't there. Mm-hmm. And on Fox Business, of course, they've pretty much gone back over. I mean, you've always had Maria Bartiromo and certain ones, the evening shows, all towards Trump. But Stuart Varney now is back. Stuart, he's a little bit wishy-washy to me. It's almost like he's afraid to commit to Trump, afraid of his job or whatever. I don't know what it is, but now he feels free to go ahead and join in on the Trump bandwagon again.
Yeah, by the way, Frank Speech, has a media outlet called Lindell TV, I think it is. They got a coup. They now have Lou Dobbs on their network.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, and
where do you find this?
There's a Roku channel.
On Roku, okay.
Yeah, and if you go to Frank's Speech, they'll tell you about it.
It's called Frank's.
Well, FrankSpeech.com.
Speech or beach?
FrankSpeech.com is kind of
SPEECH.
Speech, as in a speech, yes.
Okay, I'm just
right.
Okay. Frank. Oh, okay. Now I get. See, there's so many ways you could go. Frank's apostrophe S speech, two words.
Enunciate, David.
Frank, the name Frank, and then speak, like frankly speaking, like Frank Speech.
Yep.
Okay, now I got you.
And because Mike had originally wanted to build something to become a new Twitter, but there were so many startups in that. But his TV network, he got Emerald Robinson.
Emerald's on there.
Yeah, and he has Steve Bannon. He carries his shows. In fact, he carries 2 hours in the evening of Bannon, 4 to 6. So, and now he's got Lou Dobbs at 7. So primetime is Lou Dobbs.
Wow.
And, the only problem I'm having is I think they're growing so much they don't have the bandwidth, and I'm sometimes getting choppiness on it. And by the way, I had that on Newsmax the night of the New Hampshire primary. I could not get onto the Newsmax live channel on Roku.
Oh, on Roku. Okay.
On my app, I could. I mean, what I see is it's likely these are signs of growing so fast you don't have the infrastructure. I remember that day on InfoWars, Alex Jones had Kanye West, or formerly Kanye, okay, whatever.
Yay.
Yeah. And Jones said about every 15 minutes he had to buy more bandwidth because there were millions watching it live. And in order to handle that kind of load and not crash your servers, you got to have that bandwidth.
That brings something up. Did Alex broach the subject of Kanye's or Ye's opinion on Jews?
That's where it came out, was live on his show. He said, I love Jews, I love Arabs, I love everybody. And he said, there are certain people that I don't get along with. Unfortunately, these all happen to be kind of a little Jewish bunch of American businessmen.
There you go. See, that I knew that's what he was talking about, that there's a segment, it's like talking about Nazis.
Right.
You've got, say, the American Nazi Party.
Right.
which is not truly a Nazi party. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? In other words, so stay with me, folks. Mm-hmm. The National Socialist Party was a party formed in Germany, which was a socialist party.
Yeah.
That wanted Germany to become a socialist nation.
Their brand of socialism.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were basically essentially communists. In fact, Stalin and Hitler were united until they had a rift over Poland. That's what divided the communists and the socialists of Germany.
But internally, before Hitler got elected chancellor, you had two competing socialist parties inside of Germany, and they were trying to become the official voice of the socialist movement.
What was the other socialist party?
I forget what, but it was more Marxist in nature. See, where Hitler was more following Mussolini's corporatist, which is truly a fascist economic model.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that, because all I know is that Hitler, the battle was against the Kaiser Wilhelm. Mm-hmm. That was basically the old, and the Kaiser is emperor.
Yeah, but that was a separate battle. That was a battle against
right. And so I don't want to get off in the weeds. I'm just trying to explain to people that the National Socialists of Germany and the National Socialists, or they don't even consider themselves National Socialists. What Nazi has become to mean in America has nothing to do with the National Socialists of Germany, although the left wants to brand it that.
Yeah.
The Nazi period, it's just Nazi, which basically is a racist, anti-establishment group here in America, skinheads. And for example, in Germany, the neo-Nazi party in Germany, they don't care if you're black, white, or in between. That's not a big issue. In America, they've adopted that. Going back, it's more of has a greater affinity to the Ku Klux Klan than it does to anything else.
Yeah, it's tribalism.
The National Socialists of Germany, the neo-Nazis, let's say, theirs is more national, truly national.
Yeah.
So if you're black or mixed in Germany, like myself, if I'm half German, half black, Germany.
Yeah.
But I identify as German. And I hate essentially immigrants. I don't like what's happening to Germany because we're losing our German heritage. For example, when I turn on German radio, most of German radio is American or English music. And they don't want,
not even David Hasselhoff.
They don't want English music, French music. They want German music.
Yes,
even the hip hop. They want German hip hop. Well, why? Which is weird to me because hip hop comes from Ausland or foreign. If you want to be truly German, just make music German.
Well, you're talking about tribalism, basically.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. It's truly nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
The country truly that is living out nationalism is Hungary. Mm-hmm. Hungary is truly nationalistic without being necessarily racist and to the extreme. So, like Orban, the president of Hungary, he's made it really clear. We're not taking any immigrants.
Yeah.
If you're born here, if you're Hungarian, wonderful. If you want to visit our country, we welcome you to visit, but we're not going to let you immigrate because we don't want to dilute our culture. We want Hungarian to remain Hungarian. We want Hungary to remain Hungary. So there's that difference. we're not going to become multicultural like the U.S. because we really don't know what we are in America anymore.
Yeah, no, I get what I'm getting at here is truly when you're talking about socialism, you're talking about an economic system.
Right. But see, right, and that's the difference. That's what I'm saying. That Hitler introduced the National Socialism, which it was a socialist.
It's a different brand.
No, it wasn't. Because I'm telling you, every birthday, every Christmas, it was truly a chicken in every pot. So that. They gave presents to the kids. Yes. They gave food to them. They basically, if you will, stole from some of the rich and gave to the poor. Everybody did that. Mm-hmm. But to do that, to keep it afloat, what they they had to essentially take from the Jews.
Right. What I'm saying
to keep it afloat.
I'll use an example. Remember when Hillary Clinton tried to get nationalized health care? Mm-hmm. It was referred to in short as single payer. That means the government takes over the health care. Okay. That is akin more to the Marxist socialist model, whereas if you went with Mussolini's brand of socialism, which was called fascism, you still had private ownership, but government total control. And that's what Obama put in, was a fascist form of socialism.
Right, but the German healthcare was the socialistic healthcare. It wasn't a fascist healthcare. It was the government. The government controlled everything.
I'm talking about.
This is what we do every now and then.
Take nations out of the way. We're just talking, just fiscal policy of government.
We can't take nations out of it because you keep trying to say that Hitler's socialism was fascism versus the more communist socialism.
Okay. Well, people claim to be one thing and they don't always deliver on it. I'm just saying the term fascism, because Hitler didn't invent it. Okay. No. Mussolini didn't invent it. Mussolini said fascism ought rightly be called corporatism because it is the merging of government and corporate. And that's why when DeSantis condemned Nikki, he called her warmed over corporatism. That wasn't by mistake. He literally is branding her as a Mussolini.
Right.
Corporatism.
Can we go back to Nazis, though?
Okay.
We're talking about the whole issue I was talking about was the National Socialists, the difference between Nazis, true Nazis, and what we call American Nazis.
Yeah, I defer to you on the history.
American Nazi is purely about a racism.
Yeah.
The purity of the race.
Yeah. Had nothing to do with economic policy.
Right. German Nazism developed into that.
Yeah.
It started out as a socioeconomic system that developed into a racial thing to undergird it. Mm-hmm. Because to make it work, we had to blame an enemy to get the people to buy into it.
Yeah.
These Jews are taking all of our money. These people are hurting us. The homosexual, the Jehovah. It ended up being Jehovah's Witnesses were our enemy. The Catholics are. I mean, it was getting smaller and smaller. It's like, you remember what's that poem when they came for the Jews?
Yeah.
I didn't do anything because I wasn't a Jew. When they came for the homosexual, I didn't do anything. When they came for the so-and-so.
Yeah, I forget who wrote that, but it was very prominent.
Right. But that's basically, they kept coming for more and more and more. And then finally, when they came for me, there was nobody left to help me because everybody was gone. And, excuse me, but anyway, what the Democrats have done and the progressives in America have done and keep doing is, like I said, this redefining of terms with everything. Democracy is one, but when it comes to Nazi, they are trying to eventually, where they're headed, is to totally associate the term Republican and conservative. They'll start with conservative. They're almost there with that, and eventually Republican with Nazi. Mm-hmm. And they've taken Nazi and turned it into something that it's really not.
Yeah.
The Democrat Party is closer to Nazi, the true Nazi. Mm-hmm. The true Nazi model is actually the Democrat Party.
I agree. Yeah.
Than what they're trying to make it.
Yes. When I tell people that Obama was about as pure of a fascist as we've had, they get all freaked out because they don't understand. I'm using the term fascism in the college lecture sense of this is an economic model. And you look at what Biden's been doing with Zuckerberg and with Google and all that. Mm-hmm. They still run it up. In fact, it works better for Biden if they stay outside of government, but he totally controls them. He has them do the censoring. Mm-hmm. You know, what was going on with Hitler, I don't think any kind of socialism was what was driving Hitler. I think his real agenda was secretly and very incrementally right out. It was more that tribalism, the Aryan race, and the
I think that was more or less just a means to an end. What Hitler was really after was a monarchy, an empire. In fact, remember what is it known as? The Third Reich, which is the Third Empire.
Yeah.
The first was the Greek, mm-hmm. the Roman, and the German Empire. That's what a lot of people don't know. They always talk about the Third Reich. Mm-hmm. Well, what were the first and the second Reichs? Mm-hmm. The first world empire was the Greek Empire. The mm-hmm. second was the Roman Empire, and the third was going to be the German mm-hmm. Empire. Now, and so that's what Hitler, and that's why they call him the Führer. The Führer means the ruler.
Yeah.
And so the Führer, the ruler, Hitler saw himself as the emperor, the ruler of the world. Eventually, he was a ruler of Germany, and all that was Germany, and they just wanted to take more and more and more. He really envisioned himself as Julius Caesar or Alexander the Great.
So you're saying it really was all about him?
It was.
Okay.
In the end, it was, and so he saw socialism as the first step because he wanted to socialize everything, mm-hmm. that everybody got everything from him.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when he controlled everything, he then was the ruler, the emperor of everything, the world. It's a crazy thing, but but this is why, to me, it's so crazy that people are so simple-minded today that they're buying into this thing. All they have to do is throw out the term Nazi, and everybody thinks, oh, yeah, they think of Germany. There's no similarity. There's nothing. And I think you're right. See, America, the government the Democrats are creating, that's more of a fascist state than a Nazi state, and with socialistic elements in it. Mm-hmm. But it's more fascist than it is even socialist.
Yeah. They can even be more totalitarian under fascism than socialism because...
What is fascist? I mean, basically it's...
Well, yeah, I mean, the actual term. But when you're talking about it as an economic model, it's really designated by private ownership, total government control.
Right.
And what you've got going on with Zuckerberg, what you got going on with all the social media...
All the oligarchs.
They can do that... that's private industry. The government. That's not First Amendment
as
censorship.
long as they bow at the feet of government.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll give you all the rope that you want as long as you pay us for that rope. Right.
And it's using that passive aggressive kind of indirect control. Right. And they can get by with much further.
See, that's why Elon Musk is such a pain in the butt for them.
But, look, Eddie, you were born in Germany not many years after Hitler called it quits. So I'm not going to question your history, your recounting of it. And that's why I'm trying to find, your mother, got birthday gifts from Hitler, right? I'm trying to figure out what's in the mind of that emperor mentality. And I wanted to segue to something you and I wanted to talk about. Let's switch to Putin. How's Putin's, what's his goal? Because, I mean, he's the one that's attacking.
Putin, I see different. I don't see, it's weird. I think I see Putin truly, people are going to think I'm nuts. People are really going to think I'm nuts. A lot of people are going to hate me for this. But from the Russian side, I'm looking at it as a Russian. I see Putin, and I think he sees himself as a Russian patriot. I really believe he sees himself as the savior of Russia, Mother Russia, because I think Putin sees a battle between East and West. He remembers a time when Russia was strong. He sees when Russia was a world power. Okay. And he's seeing it through glasnost and the giving up of that power, perestroika, glasnost, losing. It's different. The Soviet Union.
Yeah.
He saw that power diminish. Now, I don't think Putin necessarily wants to go back to the old days of communism where, you know, the slave camps and subjecting the states to
that's
misery.
The internal policy. He doesn't want to go to that.
Right. He doesn't want to go to that. But he wants to see Russia on par with the U.S. and China. He sees China and the U.S. as these superpowers, and he sees Russia just kind of, man, they're just in between these two powers that they're insignificant. And so I think he is trying to flex a little bit of muscle to regain some of that stature, and that's why he's doing this. He wants Ukraine back.
Yeah.
At least that part, because that's all the Russian citizens that are in that Donbass area, to give them that and just solidify. And it's funny because when you watch the films of Russia, you know, what's going on in Moscow now, you think you're in New York. I mean, you know, the dress, the people shopping with bags. Everybody seems to be happy. They're more prosperous now than they've ever been, especially with all the oil and gas money they're getting right now. Things are good in Russia.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe he's afraid, and I believe rightly so, because if Biden and these European powers have their way, Russia will just become nothing. And
this is so. Good friend of mine, a fellow blogger, Al Gerhardt, he said, "Dave, you got to listen to this guy, Peter Zeihan." So I did a little search on this. He's got a YouTube channel, Zeihan. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast a year ago, and a little over a year ago, and Peter Zeihan said, was absolutely not surprised in the least that Putin would invade Ukraine. And he explained, now Peter Zeihan is a kind of a global forecaster of economic and international, just global events that are going to affect certain industries, especially oil. And his office is there in Austin, Texas. So he said, geographically, it's the most barren land, Russia. And if you're going to defend it, you have to control certain choke points. You know, the Caucasus Mountains being one. Different places. And he said, so in order them to reach a place where they have the security that they need, you're basically going back to the Cold War era. He said they have to have all of Finland, have to have all of the Baltic states, they have to have Poland, Ukraine, all of that. And he said they literally have to have a landmass where they're occupying a population more than the same size of the Russian population in order for them to have that sense of safety.
A buffer zone.
Yes. And because you got to have places that you can defend. You have to have mountain ranges or coastal areas or, things like that. And he said, there is no solution. You cannot work out a deal where you can both survive. And that was in Poland was a very essential thing because, in Stalin's time, it was the same rationale. And that's why when Hitler went into Poland, it was like, we will not be safe. But this is Peter Zihan saying this is the Russian mindset of how do we protect our land? The only place, they can't even feed themselves without the Ukraine. And so it was very interesting. I was listening to some more of it this morning on the way to the studio. It's very compelling, and there is no solution. But I'll tell you who scares the heck out of the Russians more than anyone is the globalist. The Nikki Haley's, the Hillary Clintons, And when you look at what Obama did, what they called the Arab Spring, that's not a coincidence. That's an Obama-Clinton foreign policy. And they caused more chaos. Libya is a hellhole today.
Oh, yeah.
At least under Gaddafi, they could provide water and fuel and food. And it's a disaster.
The whole Middle East.
Yeah. So the globalists have screwed everything up.
Yes.
They think they know better. And whereas Trump, basically with the nationalists, kind of like, look, I'm going to make my country the best it can be. And I encourage you to make your country the best it can be. Putin is not afraid of a Trump policy as he saw it enacted.
Right. See, Ukraine under Trump would still be the Ukraine it was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It would be. Because Putin would have remained where he was.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians in the Donbass area would have prospered. They would have been able to do what they want to do. And so were the Russians, and the trade would have continued. And everybody would have been able to do what they want to do. It's just Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq. Everybody would just mind their own business and do what they're going to do. Because one of the things is Trump's main thing is don't mess with the U.S.
Yeah.
What you do with each other, you do it. NATO, take care of your business. We're not coming.
Yeah, that's
if you're not paying your share, we're not coming. They're back to that same thing again.
Yeah.
They're not paying any money for NATO.
Yeah.
We're supplying all the money, the machinery, everything to make it run, and they're sitting over there whining.
Yeah.
So
most of Eastern Europe, as you know, is what they refer to as the Slavic people. Yugoslavia, right? Czechoslovakia. All those, and that because it's essentially they identify with that same mindset. They are tribally very much the same. What Zihan says is Ukraine's going to fall. Russia's strategy, much like they did with Hitler, is we will wait them out.
Right.
And Ukraine is a flat land. It is an indefensible land. And he says the same thing. It's been a corrupt government ever since they got their independence.
That's the thing. See, that's the problem. That's the problem. See, the last country standing will be Hungary.
Yeah.
It'll be the last country standing because they've taken the measure needed to be a strong nation within themselves. One of the big problems is with a lot of these countries is they're bowing to the UN and they're allowing all these people to come in from other countries and they're becoming weakened from within. Now, Ukraine, as I understand, is also one of the most racist countries on earth that they've got these, nationalistic organizations that literally hate any foreigners. So you've got that going against the other side, with the UN pushing more and more, multiculturalism and becoming more unified with the West. You want help from us, but see that you always have to pay the piper. You want our help, but you're going to have to, become more like us.
Yeah.
And the more you become like us, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah.
And along with all the corruption, I mean, it's just a mess. It's just, if they would become more like Hungary and some of the other countries get smart, I think Austria is starting to become more conservative.
Yeah.
They have to. Eventually, as these nations start solidifying around a more nationalistic, see the problem is these Democrats, I like to call them Democrats, but these rats, what they do, they redefine these terms. Nationalism is not a dirty word. Nationalism means you love your nation.
Yes.
That's all it means. Your nation.
It's the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's exactly. We love our nation. If these countries would see their nation as first and important, Holland, for example, when I lived there, I mean, we're talking 1983. 1983, I picked up some Moroccan kids, teenagers, 15-year-old kids. They were hitchhiking through Amsterdam. Just decided to give them a ride. And because I'm black, they assumed that they could speak freely. And they were telling me, basically they hate Holland and hate the Dutch. And that one day when they grow up, they'll teach them a lesson. That basically that when they're old enough, they're going to seek revenge again. And I'm thinking, are you serious? These people have taken you in, they're giving you a place to live, and you could be in a hellhole, as Trump would call it, another hole. But you could be in a hellhole in Morocco, because I've been to Morocco and I know what the people there live like. But you're not happy living here, so you're going to destroy this place and turn it into what your people came from.
Yeah.
Out of some ignorant ideal that you've been convinced is out there. But this is what's gone on in these countries, and it's what's going to happen here, that we're letting all these millions of people in. It's happening in your old state, Minnesota.
Oh, God, yeah.
Wisconsin.
The Somalis.
Illinois. Yeah. You take Detroit.
Yeah.
With people, I don't know where they're from, but there are a lot of Muslims up in there. They've got areas now where the police won't even go in because they've been totally overtaken by Islamists.
Yeah.
And so Sharia law now rules in parts of Michigan, parts of Minnesota, areas like that. You can't have that. What did Abraham Lincoln say? Quoting or paraphrasing the Bible, a nation divided against itself cannot stand.
Yeah.
Cannot long endure. That's where we're headed. In the South, you've got Southwest, you've got Latino culture that's taken over, and you're going to have a battle there.
Eddie, it's the number one weapon of global dominance? Birth rate.
Yeah.
The Germans had dominated Europe largely because Germans don't believe in a 2.2 kid. Or at least they didn't. Right? Catholics have always taught this.
Yeah.
That's how the Catholic Church, Roman Catholics, have claimed such dominance. I mean, they preach it to a degree that the Eastern Orthodox didn't. And, I really now am believing that. And the people who sold us a bill of goods about, overpopulating the earth. I mean, Elon Musk is saying, no, the earth can handle way, way many times more than what we've got now.
Yeah, but the problem is you've got these elitists who think that they can be shielded from this. But I like to remind them of a thing called the French Revolution. And the time will come when your ivory towers, your suburbs, your little gated communities are not going to protect you from the peasants.
Yeah.
They will tear down your areas.
Yeah, I just really believe there are people who want humanity to go away. And I mean, these are the WEF bunch, the Bill Gates bunch. They're preaching we've got to, depopulate.
That is the devil talking to those people. But I don't think they see it that way. I think they think they're smart enough to be able to outrun that. In other words, it's not going to touch them. They have enough money, they have enough smarts to where they can outsmart these people. These people are too stupid to be able to ever do us any damage.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
But what Bill Gates does, this is the Darwinism that I see in people of his ilk. They try out all their theories on Africa because they're just Africans. And, it's to the point where Africans have had enough of Bill Gates. They're just turning him away.
Well, Africa is not Africa anymore. Africa is China. China Africa.
Yeah.
Chifrica.
Yeah. But I'm, hearing reports, not many of them, that China's in all kinds of economic problems.
Yeah, but
they killed their future workforce.
Yeah, well, so what are they doing? They're shipping a bunch of them over here.
I think we're having all kinds of problems, and right now, if we really could see what's going on in
segueing,
China,
Elon Musk hit out at Biden's call for a border deal. Yeah. Elon says no laws need to be passed. All that needs to be done is to issue an executive order to require proof before granting asylum hearing and how it's to be used. Biden released a statement late Friday saying that the legislation being negotiated would give the president a new emergency authority to shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed, and that he would use that. BS. I'm calling BS.
Yeah, there's no pledge there on his part.
No, but he doesn't need that. All he has to do is, Trump did it.
Remain in Mexico.
Remain in Mexico. Just shut it down. Nobody else comes across the border. Take the same National Guard that is going down there now.
Yeah.
Call them out from the executive office and say, we're shutting the border down. Nobody else. And everybody else has 60 days to leave, or we're coming to find you, and we will ship you out.
Yep, no doubt.
If you're here illegally, you're going out. The 10 million people that have come in over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You're going home.
Yeah.
And they're not, listen, it's not hard to find and identify these people. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. It's all you have to do is tell landlords, if you have an illegal alien living in your property, we're confiscating your property. I mean, I have so many simple ways of dealing with illegal aliens.
Yeah.
Illegal immigrants, if alien offends you. Illegal immigrants. There's so many simple ways. I'll give you an example. I may have talked about this. Back in 1978, I was working for this insurance company. I was a claims adjuster. I wasn't an agent. We had a guy that was severely burned, over 70% of his body.
Ooh.
It was,
How do you survive?
Well, he did. He looked like a quilt. They had strips of grafting all over his body. The guy, he was a painter's helper, and he goes into the paint room, decides he wants to light a cigarette in the room, and the paint there was in the fumes and just exploded and burned it. Yeah,
especially if it's like lacquer or something like that, very flammable.
But anyway, so I was talking to the vice president of the company who happened to be visiting, and this probably kept me from being moved to the home office when I mentioned it. But anyway, I told him, why do we have this problem with illegal aliens? Why are we responsible for paying these bills?
Yep.
Under workers' compensation. It was a workers' compensation claim, and under illegal it's illegal. If they're here illegally, they should not have any rights under the U.S. law for this claim. He said, well, the courts have held that even though they're here legally, it doesn't keep them from being able to make a claim against the whoever employs them. I said, oh, yeah, well, that's simple enough. Then you just say under workers' compensation policy that if the person is employed illegally, you have no coverage.
Right. Then it falls on the employer out of his pocket.
And the guy looked at me and says, he said, no, you'll never get that passed. I said, well, there it is. So these employers don't mind paying a high premium to cover these illegal employees because it's cheaper than being at risk to pay $1 million to a guy who burns himself dumbly and puts him out of business. So they'll gladly pay $100,000 a year than pay millions of dollars for a one-time claim, be at risk for. So, and that's what we're dealing with still. That's a simple matter. If tomorrow you said any employer employing illegal aliens, their insurance does not cover any employee that's injured.
Yeah.
Instantly, they're gone.
Yeah, I agree.
But you won't do it because employers would rather, and the insurance companies don't mind collecting that insurance premium.
Right.
It's such a messed up system.
This is the same reason why big business likes big government, because big government will cover expenses that would otherwise fall on the big business through the employment packages that especially that unions want. The reason why I think our union membership has dropped largely is the unions got much of the things they wanted converted into federal and state law, and the government's now doing that which the union used to use as an argument to, for their own justification. Right. The time and a half for overtime, the 40-hour work week, all those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And, so I think that's why a lot of them are doing it. The other thing, big business always had these overseas programs like Trump talked about at his hotels and resorts to bring in seasonal workers from overseas. The little guy who owns the corner store here in town, he doesn't have those systems.
Right.
So it's the big government, the big business people that are making these deals that they invest in. Now, as we see this get worse and worse, now you've got coyotes roaming around making deals in the United States freely to deliver employment. My house next door 8 years ago was one of those drop spots. Next door to me. I had no idea. I had a Hispanic family living there, but they quietly moved out, and they had a bunch of guys who didn't speak English.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until one of their foremen who got fired, he blew the whistle on it. Mm-hmm. He told me, and I called ICE, I called all kinds of law enforcement. Nobody was interested.
Right, no, they're not interested.
So I've got it happening next door to me.
Right.
All these illegals, undocumented, nothing. Nobody wants to hear about it. And this is human trafficking. So I tried calling a task force in human trafficking. They said, what sex trade are they working on? I said, it's not a sex trade. These guys are working for a construction site, framing houses. Oh, well, we didn't mean, when we meant, human trafficking, we're really just focusing on women caught up in sex trades.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a certain narrative.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
only certain exploited people.
Well, under this administration, you're not going to get any results.
No.
It's really interesting to see. It will be interesting to see if and when Trump retakes the White House, how far he can really cut. Mm-hmm. How deep the cuts will be.
Yeah.
Because how do you do it? I mean, do we have do we have the ready labor force to step in and do the job properly?
Yeah.
Can he fire the generals? Can he fire the heads of the law enforcement, the FBI? What I think, because certain people can't be fired, but I think the heads can be.
I got a way around it.
All right, let us know.
You defund their department. It works at the local level.
But that has to be done by Congress, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the only way Trump's going to get in is if we can run up the numbers electorally so high they can't cheat their way into defeating him. If you do that, it's almost a sure thing you're going to take both houses of Congress. Now you got a mandate. Now you've got, and the first thing you do is close the doors on the Department of Justice and you rebuild a whole new department.
So you just fire everybody because you defund the department.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah. And then you replace those functions. Here's what somebody said, very important. The Justice Department has a police force and it has a prosecution force. And in England, they separate those two. And so that they are less likely to be in cahoots. So that the prosecuting people can hold the,
police.
The police, the FBI. So you've got to separate those two out. Now that will look on paper like you're growing government, creating two agencies where you had one.
Well, unless you just don't grow them to the size that they were.
That's the important thing. It's the size, not the divisions.
But now here's no matter what you do, it's fraught with danger because it's great when the Republicans are in control. Mm-hmm. But say the Democrats take back control.
Right.
Then they take over those departments, both of those.
They do. But then you don't have a Merrick Garland operating on his own.
Yeah, but you can eventually get a Merrick Garland running.
But if you set it up where you have two cabinet offices, then it requires conspiracy.
Well, yeah, the chances are slimmer, but you still have the opportunity for both of those to end up that way.
Mm-hmm. So, but again, that's the best effort. Listen, there is no remedy when the people are lawless.
Right, exactly. Ultimately,
you can't make a law that makes the lawless all of a sudden say, I guess I'll start following the law.
Right.
So, and that's why my friends who are calling for a constitutional convention or, convention of states, a remedy ain't going to work.
No. That's fraught with more danger. That's even worse because they can really mess with it.
Yeah. So there's more downside than upside if the people are determined to be lawless that have the power. Mm-hmm. So some have said just move the government to Kansas City